Now for top story here on Live from Paris, and Hassan Sheikh Mohammed has a busy in tray after Somalia's parliament elected its first president in more than 2 decades. The vote had been pushed back several times. In a moment, I'll be speaking to our international affairs editor Armin Georgian, but first, this report by Yuka Roya.
Despite fears of vote buying and fraud, Monday's election has been hailed as a milestone in Somalia's quest for a return to normality. By secret ballot, the country's lawmakers chose Hassan Sheikh Mohammed as the next head of state. The previously little-known 56-year-old beat incumbent Sharif Sheikh Ahmed in a runoff vote. The success of the new government hinges on cooperation among Somalia's various clans.
Once you get a president, the prime minister would have to come from another clan.
Many suspect the new government may just be as corrupt as the previous one. The outgoing president was among the political leaders accused of stealing government funds in a recent UN report. Still, the first elected leader in years brings hope to the nation.
Somalis were tired of more fighting, civil war and transitional governments. And now, as a people, we are very happy with the transition. We're going to have an official government that will be headed by a president who can lead the people towards development and peace.
Somalia has been without an effective central government since it plunged into civil war in 1991. Last year, with the help of African Union forces, the Western-backed administration in Mogadishu managed to drive the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab out of the capital. But the militants still control many southern and central parts of the country, and pirates roam the lawless northern coast.
And for more on that story, I'm now joined by our international affairs editor, Armin Georgian. Hello,
Hi, Claire.
Armin. Now, this was the first vote of its kind in decades, but is it really a turning point?
Well, I think we should look at the country picture straight away, Claire, which is that this is not a functioning country. It's, by most people's analysis, a failed state. So we can see that whole swathe of green here that is controlled by Al-Shabaab, which is the Islamist militias, and just this pocket of government control here in Mogadishu. Also this band of pro-government administrations in blue. And then these two regions in the north, neither of which really have much to do with Mogadishu. That's Puntland, the semi-autonomous region, and Somaliland that has declared itself to be independent. So these two have been trying to follow their own destiny for many years. And then you've got this real patchwork here along the border of Kenya and with Ethiopia. Here, these are all these areas in white are where Ethiopia and Kenya are trying to push back the Islamist militias because, of course, their own security is threatened by what's happening in Somalia. So, in theory, Kenya and Ethiopia are sort of allied with Mogadishu on the Islamist question, but it's not an exact fit. In some ways they overlap, but Kenya and Ethiopia have their own interests there. So you can see a very, very complex and divided country. Of course, if you compare this election with what was happening in Mogadishu just last year, when you had fighting between Al-Shabaab militias and African soldiers inside the capital. That looked like, the worst kind of African civil war going on inside a capital. This is obviously a step forward. Mogadishu has changed, but the country as a whole is still mired in this huge problem.
So what chance then does the new president have of reuniting the country?
I mean, one big thing to watch is whether warlords will accept the result. You have to remember that a lot of the people who fought over Somalia once Siad Barre was toppled in 1991 eventually ended up in this parliament that is now in Mogadishu, and they've really benefited from a system of patronage that's been developed and that was consolidated under President Mohammed's predecessor. So the question is, will they accept the result, particularly if President Mohammed tries to do something about that system of patronage and to change it? In any case, he has to select a government that strikes a balance between these powerful different factions that involve the former warlords. So that's going to be a very difficult thing to do.
He will, though, have the backing of the international community, won't he?
That's for sure. I mean, one thing playing in his favour is that he is a civil society figure, former UNICEF officer, a former academic, a former think tank official as well. He came to politics relatively late. He founded this party, the Peace and Development Party, just in 2011. So the fact he's a novice actually means that he might get this sort of benefit from largesse from the international community, at least, that would be willing to give Somalia a fresh start, because of course it's very worried about just how much money has disappeared and gone, you know, away from the stated objectives, all the non-governmental aid that's been coming in over the last few years, and of course he will be much less associated, at least initially, with corruption than his predecessor, President Sheikh Sharif Ahmed.
All right, thank you very much, Armin Georgian, for that top story on Somalia after the parliament there elected a new president. You're watching live from Paris. A reminder of the headlines.